University of Northern British Columbia, who have generously sponsored our lunch today. And I'm pleased to welcome Carla Caesar, the MBA Program Director from UNBC, to say a few words to kick us off. Let's give Carla a welcome.
Good afternoon and welcome. I know that I'm between you and lunch, so I'll try to keep this short. Thank you so much, the Shinamik Nation, for their warm and hospitable welcome. I am filled with gratitude and love. I am here on behalf of the University of Northern British Columbia. I'm here in place of Dr. Jeffrey Payne, who is sending his regrets. UNBC is nestled in the north of our beautiful province. Our institution was founded on the promise of in the north for the north. Although we operate and serve many communities, our main campus is found on the unceded ancestral territories of the Lheidli T'enneh people, to whom we are greatly appreciative of their ongoing collaborative and cooperative relationship. You may be curious why a post-secondary institution chose to sponsor such an event as this. Well, it's simple. Our mission is to be a force for positive change in northern BC. So what would be a better way to guide our journey than to engage with those in critical spaces and conversations? With intention, we partner with Indigenous communities. It is core to who we are. A pillar of our strategic plan is to act on truth and reconciliation. This is accomplished through dialogue, education, research, relationship, and service. For us, reconciliation is more than just a noun. It is a verb. As such, we are grateful to be a sponsor and to have opportunity to engage and be part of a meaningful dialogue that determines a robust and future BC. Thank you so much, and we're so glad that you could be here today.
Thank you very much, Carla. We're going to get right into lunch. I know people are hungry. We're going to send our head table out first. You guys are welcome to head out for lunch. Then our staff are going to come by to your table. They'll send you to the buffet line. Please wait for the staff to come and send you for food. Otherwise, we will reconvene in about 25 minutes. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to get on with our keynote luncheon today. Before we do, let's just give a quick round of applause to the VICC staff for the fantastic meals they prepared all week. And just before we introduce our keynote speaker, we're just going to share who's sitting at the head table with us today. First, Dallas Smith, President, Nanwakolas Council. Deanna Lewis, representing Woodfibre LNG and Squamish Nation. Chief Chris Roberts from the Weewacum First Nation. Erica Roberts from Nanwakolas Council. Michelle Carr, Commissioner, BC Energy Regulator. And Sarah Weber, President and CEO, C3 Alliance. And of course, our keynote speaker, Aaliya Warbus, MLA for Chilliwack-Cultus Lake and House Leader, BC Conservatives. And thank you. And now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Aaliya Warbus, our keynote speaker for the lunch.
Thank you so much. Aiswail, Hichep, Siam, Sialakwa, Huelmuch, Hastamestimuch, British Columbia, BC leaders in industry, MLAs, Aaliya Tilsqui, Huelmuch Tilsqui, Talitsaquah, Skaukail, Tulikwe, Musqueam, Samath, Skowlitz, Casta, Tsaelis, Tel, Selila, Hulihuatol, Tisqui, Tamau, Shaishkawit, Tisqui, Theltal. My name is Aaliya Warbus. I'm from Chilliwack. I was raised in my community, Skaukail First Nation. My grandparents come from Musqueam, Sumas, Skowlitz, and Chehalis First Nations. My parents are the Honorable Grand Chief Stephen Point and Dr. Gwen Point. I wanted to start out with a song. I noticed we didn't get a chance quite to pray over the food and have thanks for where the food comes from, make that connection. But the song is really an opportunity for me to call in my ancestors to be with me as I make this address to all of you that are still here for the conference, right to the bitter end. The song was composed by Teresa Bear Fox, and she gave me permission to sing it as long as I acknowledge her. And it comes from back east, but it's really reflective, I think, of the times that we're in right now and some of the challenges that we face. Skanikola de watso de netie ana de no na dayetsu de neti nu waladu ni kweku na skana ka we ha he ho hate oh no. Let's put our minds together as one and remember the ones who've passed on to the sky world. Their life duties are complete. They are resting peacefully in the sky world. In the sky world. Skanikola de watsu de netie ana de no na dayetsu de neti nu waladu ni okweku naskana ka we haleru hate new. Kosai. So I guess I have a formal presentation to make as well. And it's a real honor for Dallas to ask me to do a keynote at the closing luncheon here. This has been an amazing opportunity and conference to see so many people to connect. Not just about business, not just about the resources and the policies and the challenges, but really connect. I've heard it said more than one time that people feel that they're actually connecting on a human level. I've heard it said more than once by many of the keynote speakers and the presenters that it's really about meeting each other where we're at, not where we'd like each other to be. And that feels very important because what we're facing right now in the world is such a deep sense of conflict, lack, and fear. And I believe that the only way that we can battle that and be an example for the rest of Canada and perhaps for the rest of the world is by meeting each other where we're at with our hearts. And so I had a whole speech written for me by my staff, and to their credit, they do know me very well and they know what my values are. But as a storyteller and somebody who comes from the land, Tamuch is how we refer to the land. Hualmuch is how we refer to ourselves. I feel that I want to wrap what I've experienced here as a witness in that blanket that we wear. I want to wrap the feelings that I have in a bit of a story and who I am and how I've come to be in a leadership position and what I hope to do with that platform. So we're going to start here. This is me. I think I must be about 4 years old here. I won't tell you what decade it is, but you can guess. And the journey that I've taken and the steps that have been an uphill battle to come from where I was there, mostly as an innocent young person, and the challenges that I've faced through my community and family have been very difficult. To be standing in front of you today with the privilege that I have to have grown up in the family and the community that I have, to tell you that every single Indigenous person that you meet has a story that is just as bad, just as hard, and for many of them, and the credit that I have to give, it's worse. That is what you're dealing with when you go into a community and you go into any Indigenous leader or family. We've carried a lot, and we're still carrying it, and we're still pushing forward. This is my grandmother, Hulihuia. She's the matriarch of my family. She's the leader of our family. She carries all the gifts, all the names, all the sacred masks, all the teachings, all the culture. She's a survival of residential school. All my grandparents went to residential school. And she is one of the main reasons why we survived. Because she was tasked with the responsibility to carry our culture forward, and she had no choice. She was in an arranged marriage with my grandfather, who came from Musqueam. The elders sat down together and they said, "You two are going to make a union, because it's one of the only ways that we think our culture is going to survive what we're going to face in the next coming decades." And so that was in the 40s, before my dad and his 10 siblings were born. This is my mom, Dr. Gwen Point. She is the first Indigenous chancellor for the University of British Columbia, of Fraser Valley. My dad was the chancellor of the UBC. And so when I say that I come from a good family, I really do, and I mean that. And I feel very lucky and I feel privileged. But my story is not the norm, unfortunately. It's starting to be, but we have so much more work to do to bring all of our people to this place. And it's only through partnerships and leadership and economic opportunities that are made by our people, for our people, with your help. These women are the reason that I'm here today. This is my dad and these are my sisters. And as I said, my dad's been a huge inspiration for me. But he, like many other Indigenous men in our communities, fought tooth and nail to be where he was at. He was a logger. They put him in the most dangerous situations because the Indians were indispensable in those days. He hurt his back, so did my uncle. So he went back to school to get a law degree because he wanted to make a path forward for our people. And that's exactly what he did. So how did I get here? There's a whole bunch of events that happen in between for me to actually be able to stand in front of you today as a proud Indigenous woman, carrying my culture, my family, my kids, my wounds, all on my back with me. To be able to stand in a room and have confidence, to be able to talk to people who have degrees, who are experts, who have money, who want to come into our territories, and they want to benefit off that. As we, as I said, have scratched and clawed and suffered and struggled just to be here. What happened in between? Well, as I said, I had my grandmother. I had my brothers. These are my two older brothers. They were like the head of a ship that breaks the water for me. They protected me all the years growing up, from the alcohol that was around, from the drugs, from the racism, from the abuse. Many of our homes in my reserve, you couldn't go to any home where there wasn't alcoholism, drug addiction, parties. And now my reserve has the most educated people per capita. One of the most educated people with master's degrees and doctorates. And in the middle is my nephew, Jeffrey. Beautiful young man, beautiful soul. But life hit him hard in different ways. And unfortunately, he took his own life in 2018. This is the picture, and this is the way that I choose to remember him. As a strong Indigenous man. I know he's still with us. I know he's still with me. But the reason that I decided to share this part of my story with you is because I want you to remember this is where our people are at. When we come to these conferences and we come to these events, and we come with our titles and our education and our strength, I want you to remember this is what we're coming from. It's loss and it's grief. It's abuse, it's poverty. And every single week we bury somebody else. And many of them are young people. And when we have the ability from our own capacity to build up our own governance structures, to build up our own economies by our own rights from our own land, that is where the magic can happen. Because then we get to choose to build a longhouse, a healing center, a cultural center, We get to choose to preserve the places where we pray in the mountains. We need a sweat lodge. We can do that. We need our own school. We can do that. We need our own doctors. We need our own dental center. We can do that. But that is when we have the opportunity to do it for ourselves. That's the difference. This is my brother's other daughter, Corey. And I see the clock, and I have to apologize to Alice because I might just go a little bit over, but Corey stepped in front of a train 2 years after. So my brother lost 2 of his kids. And she fought for a long time in the hospital for her life. And we went to visit her. But eventually, because of her injuries, it was not sustainable. And again, I'm not telling you these things to make you feel bad. I'm not telling you these things so that you feel bad for me, so that you pity me. We're grieving, but we're also making it. We've got a lot to hang on to. I'm telling you these things because this is our reality. And you'd never know this meeting me. You'd never think. But I had to bury 2 of my kids in the past 5 years. And this is every Indigenous person in this room, I bet you, has the same story. It's a sad reality, but it's the reality that we have. This is my brother Stanley. I told you my grandmother had 10 kids, so there's about 35 of us, first cousins. Grew up in a small village, real close proximity. And we put each other through a lot, to be honest. Your cousins are the first ones to really shake you up in the world. So it's kind of like a love-hate thing. One day we'd be fighting, and the next day we're best friends again. That's just how it was with Stanley and I. I lost him to drugs in 2022. And he was my playmate. We were just a year apart. He was my brother. And again, I say this because it's just not uncommon. Young man in Chehalis, drugs. My brother Kevin, drugs. His daughter Tamara, drugs. Downtown in Chilliwack in a tent. These are the battles. But there is prosperity that can happen. There is success, and I know that you see it, and I know that you've witnessed it. And this is where it starts. These are my sons. Kimani, he's 15 now, so he's a lot bigger, in the red, and Gordon Seymour. Sadly, my first husband was murdered in 2012, shortly after Gordon's dad took his own life. And again, I know that these are like low points, and they feel very difficult. And if it's difficult to hear, trust me, it's difficult to live it. But our sons, they love to dance. They love to sing. They don't do drugs. They don't drink. And just before I came here, my son called me and said, "Mom, I got all A's and B's." And I pulled my failing math grade up to a C+, and I was like, fuck yeah. Because he was failing, and he didn't want to do math, and he hated it. He didn't like his teacher. I said, you know what, son? That's a challenge, and I want to see you meet that challenge. And I helped him navigate the mental health system, and we went to Stalo Nation, and we fought with the receptionist and got him a diagnosis because he has ADHD, just like me. I was like, no brainer. I knew it. I could tell. But I didn't get help when I was in high school. I faced all the failures that were there because there was way too much stigma for my mom to admit that I might be neurodivergent. So I just actually struggled. But I'd stay up late at night. It was not like my son, he just goes to bed. I'd stay up late at night till 3 o'clock in the morning and do the paper before the day and kind of push through. I mean, that's how I did all of my degrees, I think, right? But that's Gordon and Kimani. This is my daughter, Kessian. She's 12. And she's so proud to be wearing our traditional gear. She just did a presentation in her school, and she did it on our people. She did it on the cedar tree. Rapé. She's teaching her fellow students, and she's teaching her teacher, oh, this is how we use the cedar. This is how we pray. This is how we make clothes. This is how we make a canoe. This is where it comes from. This is how we use the roots. She's teaching other students and her class and her teacher about our teachings. I would have never done that in school. I was too ashamed, and I was too afraid. But she's very proud to be who she is. There's my grandmother. She's 97 now, still with us. Strong lady, can barely see out of those eyes anymore, but she still gets up every single day and she weaves. She does it by touch and by feel, because she's got to stay busy. And that's my youngest daughter, Starling. And this is what matters most to me. No matter what I do, and no matter where I go, and what talks I give, and what people I meet, and how important they are, this is what matters to me. This is what matters to all Indigenous people. I can say that from my heart. It's our families. That's our resource. The earth, the mother, that's our relative. We don't think of that as a resource. But we're adapting, we're learning, we're understanding. We have engineers, we have scientists. We're starting to think that way. We understand, yeah, we drive cars too. I go to Lululemon, right? I flew here, I get it. But this is what matters to us. This is our family. And that's actually why I feel very aligned with even the party that I sit with. Family values, centered, faith, connection, prayer, all those things. We're actually so much similar than we are different. And I actually learned that when I joined the party that I did, and I know that surprises a lot of people. I get it. But if we're not going to sit down in places that make us feel uncomfortable and have conversations that are difficult, then how are we going to move forward? So I did go from this place of innocence, and I did face a lot of struggles, a ton. I think I was maybe 8 or 9 years old the first time someone in my class told me, oh, your people don't pay taxes. My dad says you got your house for free. That was the first time I had to start answering questions like that. I didn't know what to say, but I learned how to fight and debate with my words. I learned how to ask questions early on, and I still do that to this day. I get kind of questions all the time. Letters on my desk, emails in my inbox, people at my office. They want me to answer. They want me to answer for them. And that's okay, because I asked for this job. I ran for this role. I wanted to be in leadership. I wanted to be a communicator, not just for my people, but for all the people that voted for me. But I'm learning very quickly that it's not about what I think. It's not about what I think and say we should do. It's about what all of you collaboratively and collectively are going to tell me, so that we can bring it all together into one picture. So that we can start to encourage and allow more of this. And this is my daughter, and she's dressed up and she's so happy, And we're embracing our culture and our ways from day one. And that's how it should be. And that's what I want to hopefully see for many, many more Indigenous people, cultures, communities. Even the ones that are in the city and they're disconnected and they're not connected with their cultural ways, their values, their elders. That's what we need to move towards. Because I'm telling you, and I'm going to say it over and over again, and I'll say it to anyone that'll listen, the culture is saving our kids. It's saving our communities. One little last story about that is, so I'm a paddler, competitive paddler. I'm going to Lummi this weekend to compete, and we take it real seriously. Like our village pride, we're just like, we go out there and we, that's everything to us, right? It's not the Olympics, but it matters to us who wins. And they used to have dances. And so they kind of like, secretly drink and like party and everything. And they bring a DJ and it would be like all the 90s grooves and whatever. So they hired a DJ and they put him up at the hall. And it was like 9, 10 o'clock. And he's like, no one's showing up. It was empty. No one was there. And it was kind of like, oh, what's going on? Where are all the kids? They're all at the jam. They're drumming and they're singing. They're at the jam. Because that's what they want to do. That's what my son does every single weekend. I never have to worry about him. I honestly don't. Because he's drumming and he's singing. He's been gifted drums. He's being mentored as a leader in that space. And I'm really proud of him for that. This is Starling dancing. Like I said, from day one. She's happy to do it. She knows nothing else. My niece and my daughter, this is her playmate. Same way that I had Stanley, this is her playmate, her cousin. The boys, these boys, they're all big now. They're about twice that size, but they're doing the exact same thing as they are in this picture. They're dancing, drumming, singing. They don't get into any trouble. And there they are in the canoe. And maybe that's where I'll try to wrap this up. And I actually didn't touch any of my notes, which is fine. I think we all have to get in the canoe together. That's the main button I wanted to offer today. Is if we can all get in the canoe together and we can all learn how to be in time with one another and paddle in the same direction, then I think the work will carry on as it should. And all the answers are here. I heard them. We 75% deal. We figured that out. They got 25%. They were further. We did a formula. Everyone had amazing answers to these difficult questions. But what it took was that 27 cups of tea. What it took was coming from a place of understanding. What it took was a willingness and a kindness and a patience to want to work together in the first place. And the difficulties, you're all very smart people, experts in your industries. You have the knowledge. And I think that it's the willingness that we need to just keep working together. This is my kids now. They're big. It's my son and my daughter. My paddling daughter, she comes from a very difficult home, but I adopted her as my daughter. She's with me every weekend because it's safer for her to be in the culture. And this is my whole family. My mom, my daughter. This is the boys at their jam last year. My son, for his birthday, what did he want to do? He wants to host a jam. So we got whole community, 100 people came, sing and dance for his birthday. And I put this here as an example, just a way to, like I said, put a button on what I've witnessed. Sometimes we can get so embedded in what we think is right, what we think is the path. This guy's going north, this guy's going south. You know the old Dr. Seuss story. And they're so stubborn that they don't want to move out of each other's way. But what happens is everybody just builds around them. And they make no progress. And I don't want to see that happen to people, especially the Indigenous communities who could and should benefit from their own territory and their own backyard. And from making partnerships and relationships with all of you lovely people that are in the room today. The fact that you came, that's everything. Hard stop. That's all we need. Just show up. And I think that we can get past this stagnation that might hold us back. There's my ladies paddling in the canoe together. You got to stay in time. Pay attention to what person in front of you is doing. Work together. Slide on the 1-2. And lastly, I'll just say that we all live in a circle. That's what we truly believe. We live in a circle, and what you put in the circle is going to come back to you. I've seen it happen. That's another one of our teachings. So if you want to have something good come back to you from the circle, then you better be putting something good in. So with that, I'll end there and just thank you all for listening and being a part of this event. I hope to see you again next year, and hope to see you on the many travels that we've been in across this beautiful province of British Columbia. Have a safe travels home.
Thank you so much. I was honored myself when you just quickly accepted our invitation. And the formal business of the conference, we'd like to gift you one of these flags that my nephew made where it all fits. It was very similar to your remarks, but you and I have traveled some similar paths over our years without even really having to have met in person. But when I lost my leg in 1993 in a motorcycle accident, I was really lost. I still had to finish high school. And we didn't really have Indigenous studies and things like that. I grew up in White Rock. Yeah. And so I was gifted a Stolo Award from your father, and he just told me to keep fighting. But then I kept fighting, and I started getting into politics and doing this thing. And when your father was in his esteemed position, we got invited to an event at Government House. And we were trying to find him, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. He was carving a canoe in one of the royal rooms in Government House with my uncle, Tony Hunt. Yeah. And my uncle, Tony, gave me this a number of years back, and I just want you to know you have another brother. So, please. All right, I'm crying again. It's a good conference when you can laugh, you can cry, you can sing, and it's all acceptable. And that's really what this is all about. We go through these challenges, we go through these dilemmas, and we find a path through. While I'm exhausted, well, I can't wait to go home and hug my kids. Can't wait to call my mom, tell her about my interaction with my new sister. Some things have to come to an end. But this isn't goodbye. This is see you later. But there's a whole lot of people. I know I've taken a lot of credit. I'm not going to fit through that door. My head's not going to fit with the beautiful remarks and accolades that I've gotten over the last couple days. I honestly didn't put John Muhammad up to the infomercial when he introduced me this morning, but my kids and my wife are going to bring me back to reality pretty quick when there's a sink full of dishes and a dishwasher to be unloaded and laundry to be folded. And again, as I talked about with the Premier and as our keynote speaker talked about, that's the reality that we all face. We all do this because it's right for our families at the end of the day. And so I want everybody to keep that in mind as we go forward, but it would be irresponsible of me not to thank everybody who brought this together. I think of the partnership that we've developed with C3 Alliance and being able to honor Dan Jepson yesterday, and as he passed the reins to Sarah, who we've just taken this to a new level. I think of the Vancouver Island Conference Center, who puts up with all of our requests and all the deal, the audio team, the caterers. The food was wonderful. I mean, I used to eat rubber chicken twice a month at various conferences and conventions, but the food here was just delicious over the last couple of days. Nanwakolas Council, Chief Chris Roberts. We're just going to keep doing it, bro. And all the people who have come together just to share their stories and share their path. you were heard. You were heard and you were understood. And it's so important to keep going down that path. I'm going to give a plug for BC NRF, Natural Resources Forum in Prince George. It is set for, sorry, trying to find the date. People are going to realize one day that I do not read very well. And it's an eyesight thing. It's not a education thing. It's an eyesight thing. And I'm just too vain to wear glasses because I'm going bald in glasses. I'm going to be my 6th grade teacher instantly, and it's just traumatic from a couple different points of view. But January 20th to 22nd, I guess I'd call it our big brother conference to this, as C3 has done that. I'm happy to sit on the planning committee from time to time for BCNRF, but book your rooms quick, January 20 to 22nd. 2026. We look forward to seeing those of you who can make it there. We will be working on dates for next year's BC IROC, but again, just on behalf of my family and my family before me and my family after me, thank you all for being here. Caucus. Now the race to harbor air begins.